Good morning and welcome to Review with the Brew Road Trip Edition. This is the MG ZS EV in the SE trim, bottom of the range when it comes to the MG ZS. And it doesn't lack quite as much as you'd think. I'm Ben Quirk, welcome to Planetauto. Well, you can see already the Saharan sand has done a real number on it. I've tried to clean it up best I can, but the proper detail's going to take a while. But the thing about Tri-Coat Red is it will stand out, rain or shine. Now I hear you all uttering, Road Trip Edition. So what have you got in store this time? Well, we're heading down to the Practical Classics Classic and Restoration Show. And to be honest, that's a decent long haul for something like this. We'll be covering around 300 miles. So that'll give us a chance to charge a couple of times and take a look at what's changed. Because yes, this is the facelift and it's long range. And the thing that will amaze you is you can actually buy this through the government grant. Yeah, we know it's been slashed left, right and centre. You can get this for just under 29,000 in dynamic red or under 28,000 in white. That's a lot of car for the money. So you're thinking, okay, why am I going to go for an SC rather than a Trophy or a Trophy Connect? Well, as I mentioned before, it emits far less than you'd expect. For example, you get things like 360 camera, MG Pilot, doesn't have blind spot detection, rear cross traffic alert, or front parking sensors. But it does have rear, there's no faux leather interior, there's no panoramic sky roof, there's no roof rails. Weirdly, there's no rear speakers, which really baffles me. It's a really hard push to think, actually, are these things that I can live without? And 9 times out of 10, you can. Yeah, you've got no electric seat, you've got no pollutant filter in your aircon, but you do have aircon. The best bet is to check out MG and you will see a full list of what's on the SE, what's on the Trophy and what's on the Trophy Connect. And the good thing is you can still use the iSmart app. When the ZS EV first came out, it had about a 163 mile range. Now, well, you've got a 72.6 kilowatt per hour battery, which actually offers closer to 260 miles. It's lithium and it's water cooled. There is no heat pump on this. It'll pull 0 to 60 in around 8.2. It's got 156 brake horsepower. Now there may be no four-wheel drive option in this country, but it still has a relatively decent ride height, meaning you can be a little adventurous. Nice and easy to see where to top up all your fluids. It's teched up to the 9 with safety, including MG Pilot. So I've had it on charge overnight, and I think it was about 12 hours. And I came back from Preston with about 50 miles, and now it's got about 163. So it's put a fair chunk on, considering that's just a home charger. Now interestingly, all trims have LED lights, and that's front and rear, high beam and low beam. You also get high beam assist, and they're automatic. But when it comes to styling, it's exactly the same as any of the others, so nobody can actually tell, unless they look through the window. I actually think I prefer this, because it harks back to the Metro and the houndstooth fabric in one of those. I love touches like that, things that just make me think, ah yes, it's like when I climbed in the Golf GTI and it had the tartan seats, it just took me straight back to the Mark 1. It's the same with this. It's got circular vents, the kind of thing you'd find in an MGB. Yes, obviously the powertrain's new, but the way things are going, ICE is going to be outlawed pretty damn quickly, which, yeah, we're not best fit for that, to be honest. We are maybe going to have to replace a couple of our cars with electric. And arguably, this is the best value family SUV. And it's electric, and you can get it for under 30 grand. Let's take a deeper look inside. For a start, it's nice and easy for me to get into, even at 6'3". Decent door opening, decent headroom, and decent legroom. And here's that houndstooth fabric. Lovely supportive seats. Yes, they're not electric, but they're easy to use. Even a footrest down there. Leather wrapped steering wheel. We've got rake, but we haven't got reach. But that's been the same in every ZS, so I'm kind of used to it. It would be nice to see it in later models, but I can understand why they haven't done it. Plus you can still get a comfortable position. Down here you can power fold your mirrors. Now these can't tow because they're not homologated to tow, which is quite strange considering you can adjust the headlamp height. I mean, you're going to see more of this on the road trip, but this is just a cursory glance. In the rear, yeah, you've got hard plastic at the top of the doors, but it's decent quality, and to be honest, the interior is well constructed and it's lit up nicely. with satin finishes like this. And you've got padded areas on both here and the front. Decent headroom in the rear and legroom. And bear in mind that seat's set for me at 6'3". The rear seats are comfortable, they're at a nice angle, and they're not the bucketiest, but they still hold you well. And decent on a long journey. It really is a roomy SUV. USBs, vents, isofixes, airbags, and it isn't too dark in the back, even though there is no panoramic. But that's the thing about MG, you don't get privacy glass. You can have it fitted aftermarket, so if that's your bag, you're all good. Now with every MG you get a 7-year warranty, and this is how you open it, using a badge. Decent boot, storage areas, perfect for things like detailing bottles, charging cables and inflation kit. When you drop the seats, well, you could quite easily get a mountain bike in there. It's an easily removable parcel shelf. So there you have it. What I'll do is I'll take a look at the exterior in more detail, probably when we're charging. And that's it, we're ready to roll, aren't we, Annabelle?
We are. I haven't gone to a car show in many moons.
I know. Time to adventure. Ooh, keyless entry. Even on the SE. Just take a look in here. So we've got the new infotainment system, so it's responsive, it's easy to use. Yeah, we don't get the live sections like weather, but we do get, as I mentioned, compatibility with the iSmart app. And this is a far better system. Full digital cluster and a push button start. And this is the SE. That's what I can't get over. You get so much that you just wouldn't expect to get in an entry-level trim. I'm glad to see this has returned, and it's so intuitive. Turn right for drive, press P for park, you've got your modes, you've got your curves, and you've got your battery. And some shortcut buttons. And inside, it's definitely lifted since the first gen. Anyway, that's enough yabbering, isn't it?
Let's get going, Ben. On the road again. Now, surprisingly, you get a 360 camera with the SE trim. Okay, it's not the highest definition, but you can see the rear, you can see your 360, and you've got your indicator cameras as well.
The key today is to travel in eco mode. Now we know that normally doesn't go to plan, but I've only got in eco I've got 173 miles. So the temperature's 13 degrees, so that's going to help us. Last time we drove one of these, it was really cold.
Yeah, we went to the Lap of Lights, didn't we, in Silverstone?
Yeah, it was really cold.
Yes, it was.
And it did affect range, but...
This is balmy in comparison, isn't it?
Yeah. Into normal, 160 miles of range, and sport, my favourite, 156. So realistically, we'd even get there if I travelled in sport. But we're off the risk, though. Because we do want to get there while the show's actually running, don't we, Annabelle?
We do indeed.
And the M6 is pretty damn horrendous any time of the day. Tell you. Well, that was up to national speed in a matter of minutes.
Well, seconds, Ben. Seconds.
Yeah, I know, I'm joking. That's how quick these are, though, isn't it? The benefit of this is because it's so heavy, courtesy of the batteries and the way that they're laid out on the floor, it means it feels extremely well planted. Yeah, the body moves around a fair bit on top, but that means that you get a comfortable, pliable ride unless you really hammer it into a corner and then it does lean. So if Annabelle pans around now, you'll see we're on the crag. And over the last few weeks, they've been operating something called Toad Patrol. So they come out and save toads that are wandering across to the bird reserve on the right-hand side. So what do you actually lose in the SE? Well, Annabelle.
You lose the panoramic sunroof,
Yep.
the heated seats,
Yep.
the leather interior,
Yeah. Which is leatherette.
and the, well, yeah, it is, and the rain sensing wipers.
And this was one we found last night. If you go into the stereo system and try and set the speakers to the rear, you can't. Why? Because there isn't any. So we're just coming up to Carnforth, and it's literally jump on the M6 and floor it, or in this case don't. Have to drive economically. So Annabelle, should we have a range check?
Range check.
So it's now working out how many miles we've got. Interesting. So 63% there, 168 there, and then you can press this and you can see various changes. So let's have a look. See, that shows 80% is 225. You could also see momentarily there
the indicator camera.
Yeah. Just looking at the cluster, it's exactly the same as the other models. You've got your road sign recognition, digital readout here, and if I back off, you can see when it's regenning. So we've got curves down here, and we've got 3 levels. And interestingly, no, it doesn't work when you're using adaptive cruise, but I still opt for it anyway because it stops me flooring off all the time, because it'll stop, go, and follow the traffic in front, and it's pretty damn responsive. The one thing I have noticed, if a car's like ever so slightly over the line on the right hand side when it's, say, going into a junction, then this may take evasive action. But that's what you want. You don't want it to do the opposite and stack it into it. Lovely weighty steering and driving modes. So we've got eco, normal and sport. And when you put it in each mode, you do feel through the pedal it's like in a pullback slightly. Or if you go into sport, you feel it like ready itself. As you can see, we've now got Apple CarPlay running. So it means that I can't see anything to do with my range or my battery status or anything like that. But that doesn't matter because it all displays in the cluster, including the road sign recognition. If I go through the computer, you can also see what the motor's doing, tyre pressure monitors. Ooh, look at that. Ooh. Bonnie Hurricane there in a golden yellow. The motor speed, the voltage current, and the battery in the middle, and you can also see what it's doing with the power. Well, we've now dropped down to 149 miles. But I'm assuming if what it's doing is levelling out and working out how I'm driving. So travelling between 70 and 72 miles an hour, we should get mile for mile. There is a little bit of tyre noise, and I have noticed there's a bit of wind noise, but that's primarily due to, well, it's a breezy day. When I've been driving it over rough terrain, you do get more tyre noise, like, you know, dodgy roads around Silverdale. But normally on an A road, it's not excessive in the slightest. Now it's starting to economise. We've got 130 miles of range, and we've got 123 miles to go. We haven't got any heating on because
we don't need it.
Quite frankly, it's hot, isn't it?
It is.
Oh, that's an interesting thing. If you put your indicator on and you've got Apple CarPlay, it doesn't look like you can see your cameras. The other thing about adaptive is, as we know, it doesn't use regen, but also, depending on what the gap's set to, it can brake what I call a little early, in which case you lose the speed that you're at, and then it takes a second or so to get back up to the limit. Say you want to pull out, you're going up behind the car, and the adaptive cruise has clocked, it'll instinctively start slowing down. If you then put your right indicator on, it will then override that and give you more power. It's now picked up the BM. If I put my right indicator on, it's now started accelerating again, so I've got power to pull out. Drives nice and comfortable. It feels well planted. We've got lane keep assist, lane mitigation, AEB, pedestrian and bicycle detection. I'm trying to think what else. A whole manner of safety, aptly named MG Pilot. You operate the adaptive by pressing the button on the end of the stalk. Now, we noticed the other day, and we've said this for years, if it's MG Pilot, it's got like a turquoise end. Well, not anymore. They've all gone black. I suppose that makes sense because they've all now got MG Pilot. Travelling at 73 miles an hour, we are using a bit more than a mile for mile. Probably about 1.3, I'd expect. But if you go on the website, you'll see that when you take it onto the motorway, I think they estimate
187, I think it is.
Yeah. So I think our best bet's to go and recharge at Knutsford. 105 miles of range now and 110 miles to go. Even though some of the other vehicles are moving around a bit, this isn't. And that's thanks in part to the weight of the vehicle and also the lane keep assist. It's a pretty good system on this. If you sat at say 72 miles an hour and you put your foot down, it will just accelerate like it is at 30 miles an hour.
But to be able to have that kind of power still when you're at 70 odd,
yeah,
that is really good.
That's how an electric vehicle operates though, isn't it? It's instant power. 0 to 60 in about 8.2. I think they're about 160 brake horsepower. A 50 limit, and a 50 limit means you can economise left, right and centre. Now I'm in adaptive, so it's not going to be using any kind of coasting regen, but the bottom line is we're still doing 50, which means it's far more economical than it would be at say 70. Be interested to see how much we recoup in this section, even if it sits at 81 and then just doesn't change and that gets shorter.
Yeah, well, it's dropped a mile now anyway. It is refined in this cabin.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It helps having like a mid-range tyre too. If you've got rubber band tyres, they sound like a racing car. These come into their own around, well, anything from 20 to about 50. That's why the range increases to about 370. Now there is one thing missing from the SE that I would like to have, and it's something that's very important on motorways, and that's blind spot detection. I mean, I always do lifesaver looks left and right anyway, but it's just, well, it's a real help to see something flicker in that mirror. It just catches your eye and you think, nah. We're still in the roadworks section. I thought I'd just give you an update and show you how beneficial it is travelling at 50. So we've got 80 miles of range and 91 miles to go. Now if you remember before this, we had 98 miles to go and 81 miles of range. So we've done 7 miles to the one on the map. Wow. So talk about economising. It's such a shame that if you're doing 72 or whatever, that it drops so drastically.
Yeah, because it would be great.
Technologies now advanced, aren't they?
Exactly, I was about to say, it would be great at say 72 that you could get mile for mile.
So we're going into Knutsford, and this is where we're going to charge. So we've got to actually work out where to charge. Do you reckon they're in there?
Yeah, I do, but where exactly? Right in front of us. 360 camera really does help, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's come in handy for this. Hopefully, the cable reaches. So, time to charge. Plug in your vehicle, tap contactless card or device, and then. So now it's readying itself. It normally takes up to about 30 seconds, and there we go. 3 or 4 seconds. Preparing to charge, setting up comms. Nice and painless. Be interesting to see how fast it actually charges. The thing about chargers is, well, it's a relatively painless system to say 3 years ago, where none of this is straightforward. You'd look at things and think, how do you do this? Whereas this, you literally plug it in, tap your card, it prepares itself, it charges, and then you disconnect. And that's pretty much it. And Instavolts are even easier. Type 2. With MG, you get MG Pilot on all of them, you get LED lights. Now if you're looking at your model and thinking, what's changed on the front? Well, this is now here. So you charge on the left hand side, and it did, if you remember, used to be a panel that came up, but everybody complained about how fragile it was. So MG went, right, sod it, we'll fix that. I moved it to the left. They made it easier to open the little catches too, because they've removed all the rubber bungs and put these little hinged plastic covers. And to be honest, they work far better. It just makes it far quicker. You pull it out, push them to, and they automatically lock. The one thing that's disappeared from this that I did love is a pulsing badge. It's gone. Instead, it's been replaced by this. Nice and easy to read though. Bear in mind, you can always use your iSmart app to check your range and do all manner of things. And I think one of the biggest selling points from MG has to be the fact that you get a 7-year warranty. The thing about the ZS is it comes into its own. The first gen looked a bit generic. It looked like other vehicles. Whoa, let's draw off a minute to look at that. See many of those around? TR7? No, this new facelift, it's far sleeker. It's got better shaping around the front and rear lenses. Okay, it's kept the same body, but they've just tweaked things. No, it's impressive. i3. Just chatting to that guy, lovely gent. Let's just tell me about the range on that. Realistically, it suits his needs. That's the thing. It's simple, it's easy. You pay a premium for filling up on a service station, but you do with petrol. So why isn't it going to be any different? Makes perfect sense, to be honest. And we all know that well-being is an important part of life, therefore...
It's time to refresh ourselves now. Snack time.